So this is going to be an audio review for 10.9, our big praise service. We are going to be listening to the PM stuff. Starting out, I just want to take a look at some vocal stuff. When you are working with a bunch of extra choir, first of all, don't be afraid to pull some people back if they aren't adding much. It sounds harsh, but it's our job. We got to make it sound good. So if somebody's pretty off pitch, just go ahead and pull them back. One other thing I wanted to make a comment about is really avoid overcompression on choir vocals. Because once you stack that like 12, 13 times, that aggressive compression, you're going to get so much room noise bringing all that in. In fact, I would try to avoid compression on your choir vocals more than maybe 2 or 3 dB, like really minor. Might even be worth it putting something gate-ish on them just to help reduce some of that background noise. So let's take a listen to some choir. Apologies in advance, because there's going to be no tuning. It's going to be pretty real, pretty raw. So.
There will be a day when all will bow before Him. There will be a day when death will be no more.
So that's with some pretty aggressive compression on some of these vocals. I'm going to go ahead and back that off, and then we'll take a listen to what that sounds like. So this is what it sounds like afterwards with some of that compression dialed back. The other thing I added in was the doubler a little bit, and I took the doubler off the lead vocal. So we're going to go ahead and add the choir in and our lead vocals. Take a listen.
And we'll see that it was worth it when He returns to wipe away our tears. There will be a day when all will bow before Him. There will be a day when death will be no more.
So you can hear that background noise especially just kind of dials back a little bit. It's not quite so aggressive, which means when we're pushing our choir during those big moments, it doesn't feel like the room suddenly gets bigger or suddenly starts, overpowering the rest of our mix. Let's hear that in context with everything.
We'll see that it was worth it when He returns to wipe away our tears. There will be a day when all will bow before Him. There will be a day when death will be no more. Standing face to face with Him who died and rose again. Holy, holy is the Lord.
So that's a great place to start. Again, balance your vocals out as much as you need to. Don't try to make everybody equal volume. Go ahead and pick some of your best vocals to kind of lead the choir and settle everybody in behind them. The other thing I'll mention on the choir vocals is don't do quite as aggressive of a high shelf on them. It is really beneficial to try to pull some of that high end back a little bit compared to the majority of your lead vocals, just to help them sit in the background a little bit and meld together rather than being each their own individual piece of the puzzle. If you have 12 additional pieces to that puzzle, it just fills things up very, very, very quickly. You don't have much room left for anything else. One other thing I wanted to mention on instruments is when you're doing brass and you only have a couple brass like this, it can be really beneficial. I see you already put reverb on them, dedicated reverb, which is great. But one of the things that I like to do is use some sort of like duplicator or like stereo expansion kind of a thing to make it feel like there's more brass than there are, is the main goal. So putting that up at the top of the chain, expanding that out, and then at the bottom adding a little bit of reverb touch in there, as well as then taking the stereo pan controls here, taking one hard left or hard right, and then one kind of ish in the middle somewhere. And what that allows us to do is create kind of a stereo field that's like the left 75%, and then the other one's the right 75%. And this is what that sounds like. I'll go ahead and disable these guys here for just a second. And then we'll add them in. So it just adds some really nice ambiance and space and width to those trumpets and trombone brass stuff. I'll probably do the same thing for dinner theater with the brass that I have. Yeah, I thought it was a great mix. Really appreciate you being there. Thank you for what you're doing.